Pizza delivery drivers of Reddit, what was the most fucked up place you've ever stopped at? I once delivered to a guy living under his porch, if that counts. I drove up to the house. It's pitch black. No lights on. I look at the ticket and it says use back door. I go up the steps and no lights on. Nothing. Then I hear a voice from below me say, "Hey, down here." I look under the porch and there's a small door leading into what looked like a makeshift apartment. I had to actually crouch to get to it. Gave the guy the pizza and bounced the fuck out of there. I don't know if this counts as fucked up, but it always makes me laugh when I think back to it. I delivered pizza to a house where an older guy walks out in a robe, sorta mumbling. I hand him the food, he hands me a 20. I tell him it's 24. He mumbles okay and waddles back into the house, comes back and hands me another 20. I go to my pocket to get change and he slams the door on me. I also once delivered to an older woman who tells me to come in the side door. The food is about $34 and she hands me what I think is 40 and is really sweet, asking me how I'm doing and all that. I get back into my car and realize it's actually $60 and 2 of the 20s were sorta stuck together. I go back into her house to let her know and she says, "Oh, I know, it's for gas and whatever else you might need." I always remember that lady because it was just such a random nice thing to do and really made my day. GPS led me to my city's hospital. After getting directions from a lot of employees, I finally found the room. I'll admit now, I really should have paid more attention to the signs but was in rush and didn't bother. Luckily there was a nurse already in this lady's room. I was just going to walk in and drop food off when the nurse starts shaking her hands and rushes to me. "No, no, no, you can't come in here. This is isolation." "Oh, I'm sorry," she ordered a delivery. She went back in the room and asked the lady if she ordered delivery and I heard the lady say yes. I overheard the nurse tell her, "You should have told me." Nurse comes back to me to grab food and told me if I had walked in the room I was not be let back out or something along those lines. Threw me for a loop, haha. I will pay more attention now. I promise. I delivered subs, but one of our regular clients was an old lady in a nursing home who thought it was 1940s or something. She was super nice, but nobody would deliver to her because she would only tip you like 25 cents because again, she was living way in the past. But I loved to sit and talk with her, so I always volunteered to do it. Sometimes the nurses would pay the tip if they saw me, but usually I only got a quarter. Her delusional state was heartbreaking. She was completely lucid aside from not realizing what year it was. Someone ordered pizzas to her funeral. There were a ton of people there, all somber and dressed in black while I rolled up in my bright red greasy t-shirt, lol. Definitely one of the most awkward experiences I've had. Grandma always loved Domino's. RIP. I have to. We had a regular that was saved in the computer as Mike from around the corner. Whenever I delivered he was super fucked up. On more than one occasion I had to let myself in because he was playing his drum set with his headphones on or completely fucked up on booze or drugs. One time he was passed out and drooling on the coffee table. Called the cops but he was okay. I saw him a year later at his day job and he didn't even know who I was. Was never sober when we delivered. The other one was a Nazi house in Huntington Beach. Big 4-bedroom and the place was always crawling with white supremacists. Always answered a door without shirts and displaying tattoos. Always a style. They wouldn't tip unless you were white. Not really fucked up, but strange and slightly scary to me at the time. In high school I delivered pizza in a pretty bad part of town. One time I had a delivery to an apartment complex that was known for being really ghetto. It seemed like there was a shooting there every other week. I knocked on the door and a woman answered wearing an extremely short leather skirt, a bra, and high heels. Smoke drifted out of the open door, and it smelled like backwoods blunts mixed with a kind of chemically smell that I can't really describe. I told her the price and she said 1 second sugar, and walked away. I stood there for about 2 minutes until a giant of a guy finally came to the door. He was probably 6.5 feet tall and had muscles like LeBron James on steroids. He had on a red bandana, red shoes, no shirt, and jeans that sagged, revealing red boxers. His entire torso was covered in tattoos, many of which appeared to be the same sequence of letters in different styles. I tell him the price and he pulls a huge roll of bills from his pocket. I'm talking like 3 inches in diameter. The guy took a few seconds to free the mass from his pocket. He takes a rubber band off of it and starts flipping through. He probably flipped through a few dozen hundreds before getting to the 20s. He pulled 2 20s from the roll, the total was like $35, and hands them to me. I asked if he wanted change and he stared at me for about 30 seconds. I was about to repeat the question, even though he definitely heard me, considering we were about 2 feet apart and it was silent except for me talking, when he pulls another 20 from the roll and hands it to me. I look at him in disbelief for a second, and then thanked him and told him to have a good evening. He nodded, shut the door, and I heard about 5 locks being latched. Used to deliver part-time in a not so nice part of town. Used to do a regular delivery to an adult bookstore. My 18-year-old mind was blown the first time I went in and saw all the sex toys and shit hanging on the walls. Another time I delivered to a room at a hot sheet motel. Dude opened the door and while he was counting out the money I saw a naked hooker sit up in the bed behind him. Edit. Apparently this needs to be said at the beginning. I'm a girl. I was a delivery driver and was working a morning shift. Around 10:30 am I got a delivery to an apartment. Everything seems legit since it's daytime and there are lots of people close by. I knocked on the door and after 30 seconds or so the door opened a few inches and the guy was behind the door so I only saw his face. Still didn't think it was weird because people do that when they're trying to restrain a dog. He asked me to put the pizza on the stove behind him, and he moved back so I could see it was right behind him. I hesitated a second and decided not to do it. Told him I can't enter homes but I don't mind waiting until he's ready to take the pizza. He asked again, said it's right there, so I gave the same answer, really apologetic. But something wasn't feeling right. I realized later it was how quiet it was. Didn't sound like there was an excited dog back there. So he opened the door wide open and was completely naked. And this guy was at least 60 years old and like 6 feet tall. I tried to hand him the pizza and gave him the total, averting my eyes the whole time. He wouldn't give me the money. He kept asking me to repeat the total and moved into my line of vision. I just took a step back and looked straight up. Eventually he gave me $25 and I GTFO. Told everyone at the store, and for an $8 tip and a chance to deck the guy, all the boys that worked there hoped he would order again. The next day he did. When the driver got back, he said he had to wait at least 2 minutes and when the guy answered he was only wearing sweatpants, so he was sure he would do it again to a girl driver, so the guy got blacklisted. Drove for Domino's in college and had to deliver to a house in a bad part of town. There were no lights on at all outside and the grass looked like it hadn't been cut in the months. I have to use my phone flashlight to find my way to the door. I knock and this elderly woman answers wearing nothing but an oversized t-shirt. She had one eye that was good and one that was completely glazed over. She never said a word and kept eye contact with me the entire time that she fumbled through her wallet to give me exact change. Ugh. Meanwhile inside there is a very large man and a little kid. They were both only wearing boxers and the kid kept trying to run up to help the woman with the sodas and pizza and the guy kept yelling to sit his ass down. All the while this woman is silent and staring into my soul. I wish I could say it was a one-time deal, but no. I delivered there a few more times after that and it was the exact same drill every time. Just felt like something from the Twilight Zone. The guy at the door slowly opens it armed with a rifle. I asked him if he had ordered pizza. And his reply was like, oh yeah, I just wasn't sure that it was you. Between pizza, social work, soldier, census, government field data investigator. I've seen some shit. Most of the pizza stuff is just people without pants, or really intoxicated and stuff, but that stuff just turns into same shit different day. A few years ago, I delivered to a house where the whole family was out front when I arrived. There was also a husky puppy, who got into something in the grass. The wife's response was to shake and cuss at it. I put on a joking voice and said hey, you can't shake it out of the pup, and the husband did some flex on me by saying thanks, you deliver pizzas and stiffed me. I didn't tell anyone at work, and that night, around 2 am, I went back to the neighborhood, parked a little block away by a patch of woods, and to their backyard fence. Like I was thinking, it was left out back overnight, and this pup is just a couple months old. So I slipped through a gap because I can literally slide through any space as wide as my head, unhooked the puppy now waiting at the end of his tether in the yard, and got the fuck out silently. I gave the puppy to a friend, because she and her husband are unbelievably good people, and he's been such an amazing dog. His name is Chico. The family either didn't care or thought the pup got loose or something because I never heard from them at the store. Maybe it was wrong of me, but I couldn't get the memory of her shaking and yelling at that pup, and I guess the story my parents told us of when they rescue stole a dog put it all together.